Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Carlson Cards podcast, where we interview a new collector, hopefully every week, at least every other week. And today we have a really awesome collector on that I have chatted with a lot online. I met Liam, I believe, through Instagram originally. He's a collector from Scotland, actually, so this will be really interesting. Ironically, we've had a lot of international collectors on now in the last few episodes, if you count, the ones before I took a break here. And I just love hearing the variety, hearing, I'm sure from Liam how he became a fan of football and the players he collects and everything like that. So really looking forward to this. Liam, thanks for hopping on. How's everything going?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me on. A big fan of the podcast. Owe a lot to this podcast for my hobby knowledge, so looking forward to chatting and hopefully learning some more.
Perfect. Yeah, hopefully I'll learn stuff from you too. I mean, that's always up with the guests. I feel like I learn little tidbits of things too. And I like with like your collection, obviously we'll get when we get into this. You don't collect who everyone else collects, which I think is really cool. Like you pick players that I imagine you have a passion for that is unique and you have a really in-depth collection for them. So I always really like, how do I say, respect those kind of collections. So I'm really excited. This will be a lot of fun. So I'm going to share a photo you sent me. This was a good, I think, dialogue into your background, perhaps, maybe your original introduction to American football and stuff like that. So I'd love if you could maybe just introduce yourself here and talk a little bit about this.
So I'm from Dundee in Scotland, which is the fourth biggest city. Like most cities in the UK, it's dominated by what I would call football, but what you guys would call soccer. Um, my local team, Dundee, who I've supported for 30 plus years. My dad was a Dundee fan, my granddad's a Dundee fan. But we have the two closest stadiums in the UK. I think it's a population of about 140,000, and we've got two football teams within 200 feet of each other, basically. Um, Big rivals. We're both in the top league this year, so I just thought that was an interesting tidbit to where I'm from. I'm also about 30 minutes away from St Andrews, which has probably got the most famous golf course in the world, the Old Course. So don't know if some of the golf fans listening might be able to pick Dundee on a map based on being at St Andrews or doing a bit of research about that.
Again, interesting, and I appreciate you sharing the photo because it does give a really cool visual here for those who can see it. Part of this too, so like you just mentioned, you have the soccer background. I think probably you're around a lot of, again, what I would call soccer fans around you. How did the interest in American football flourish, and how did that begin?
In terms of collecting, my dad still collects to this day, but when he was a child, you never collected cards, you collected football programs. So he's got hundreds of programs dating back to like the 1930s, 1940s for Dundee. So I think being a collector, it was always going to happen with my father kind of going down that path. In terms of NFL, to be honest, it started by buying Madden. I think it was Madden '04 with Michael Vick on the cover. That was the first Madden I bought. I started playing it. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. Just got into it from there. Started watching YouTube clips of the players that I was using. Then kind of picked a team. I picked the Patriots because they play in the same colours as Dundee, my football team, red, white, and blue, and probably helped that they were pretty good on Madden at that time. Obviously, having Tom Brady. But I was having a little look at the Madden '04 roster earlier just to kind of familiarise myself again. And like Dion Branch, who obviously is my main PC, he was 77 rated. Tom Brady was 90 rated. The offense wasn't that good on that Madden. So I probably found myself probably picking the Falcons and teams like that with a bit of speed at quarterback. But no, that's where it started, Madden. Then in 2007, they had the first international game at Wembley. That was with the Giants and the Saints. No, sorry, the Dolphins and the Saints. 2007, I went down to that game at Wembley, and ever since then, it's been just full throttle. All the content I listen to is about American football podcasts, everything I read, local Boston radio stations, everything. It's just kind of consumed me ever since. So,
That's amazing. One part of this story that's kind of funny. I see a mirror to this in America here, where like I have a lot of friends who get into soccer through FIFA. It's kind of like alternative here, and then it's the flip side
yeah,
for you, which is pretty cool. What was the build up to that game in 2007 like? I wasn't quite watching football yet then. I think I probably started more around like 2008 or 2009. What was the buildup like with that international game, if you remember? Do you remember that at all?
I just remember there being quite a big hype. If it had been so long, obviously they had NFL Europe. Scotland had a team, the Scottish Claymores, but
Oh, that's right. I forgot that was a
yeah,
thing. Wow, that's cool.
but I wasn't that was before my time, so I didn't watch them or follow them or anything like that. Just remember it being quite a big frenzy. It was obviously a big deal for a lot of guys that watched the NFL in the 80s and Joe Montana and Dan Marino and things like that. So it was definitely, I would have been 17 then. So I wouldn't say I was the youngest person in the crowd, but I definitely felt that it was an older generation that were there. Then I've probably been to London 10 times for NFL games since. Um, been to Germany to see the Pats, been to Boston obviously to see the Pats. So yeah, seen the Pats in three different countries, which is pretty cool.
That's amazing. I have a few photos here. I think probably connect to some of these stories that you mentioned here. You know, with going to games, I'd love if you could maybe just tell a little more about the photos that you supplied me here. That I think will lead to some interesting stories here.
Yeah, so the one on the left was like I was saying to you before we started, I was in Dusseldorf for the Euros there following Scotland. But I was in Dusseldorf a couple of years ago for a stag do or a bachelor party. And we were just in some rooftop bar, just having a laugh, then walked down the stairs and I was like, that's Sebastian Vollmer, who was the right tackle for the Patriots. I was just like, surely not. So I went over and I started speaking to him, and they were here to promote, like in the NFL, certain teams get foreign markets that they've got to have so many events on and things like that. So he was there promoting the Patriots in Germany, and it just turned out they had his Super Bowl ring and everything like that. So I got chatting to him. He let me wear the Super Bowl ring, and obviously took a photograph, which was yeah, just so unexpected because it's not like there was a game on or anything like that. I was just totally right place at the right time. It was yeah, it was amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah. And for even the fact of like, just from talking to you already, I can tell that how the breadth and depth of your football knowledge as a fan is. I bet you a typical, even maybe a typical Patriots fan might have just walked right past him, but you're lucky you kind of knew the faces so well. I'm sure it helped out.
Yeah, especially like there's obviously not many European NFL players, especially at that time when he was playing for the Pats. So yeah, it was, and plus he was 6'7", 6'8", so you kind of get a vibe that he might be some sort of professional athlete. But no, it was great and an experience I'll always remember. So
Did he get to hop onto the stag party with you guys then the rest of the night, or he had to leave
no,
other plans?
yeah, he with the size of him, I think he can put away a few beers anyway. That's for sure.
That's hilarious. So second photo on the right, one of the questions I was, gonna kind of ask you, and I'd love to hear the background here with you because I know your Instagram's fairly new. I think you started last year, right? Is that right?
Yeah, when I got back into the hobby, I was just watching content on YouTube, buying cards that people were telling me to buy, and not cards that I actually wanted. Made a card IG. So yeah, my card Instagram is fairly new. When I made it, I started just searching. Dante Hightower's my favourite Pats player ever. Unfortunately, he doesn't have many cards. So I done a bit of research. I was searching hashtags Dante Hightower. Then I came across Timo, who's based in Germany, goes by Boom Tower Collector. He's got a great Hightower PC. He's got the Prism one of one and everything like that. And I seen he put a post out saying he needed two cards to complete his rainbow. One of them was the Gold Prism, which I had. And I just thought it would be, as much as I loved that card, I was a little bit of a grade snob at the time. It was a PSA 8. So I thought it could probably be in a better home than it was currently in. So I just messaged him and I basically screenshotted him how much I paid for the card on eBay and just went, if you give me that, I'll send the card up to Germany. It just so happened that the Pats were playing the Colts a couple of months later in Frankfurt. I said I was going to the game. He also said he was going, so we agreed to meet up. Um, had a great chat with him. He was with his daughter, and that was the only still to this day the only time I've met somebody from Instagram. So that was basically my first post on Instagram, and Dante Hightower seen it, commented on it, and followed me. So that's goals right there. That was a great, yeah, that was a great time.
That's amazing.
Um,
That's a good first start to Instagram. That's that's you can't really beat that then. One of the
yeah.
things I was going to kind of ask about this was, with it being again like fairly new to the whole Instagram thing, what are
Mhm.
kind of your takeaways in terms of relationships? Have you noticed that that's a huge deal? I mean, it sounds like it, right? You already met someone here. I guess do you have any tips for people who maybe aren't necessarily into the community yet for sports cards, but they're listening and want to get started? Do you have any tips for people on that side of things, especially maybe
Um,
internationally too?
yeah, Instagram's been such a big thing for me, in terms of knowledge, finding other collectors, and finding cat like I found Dion Branch cards that I didn't even know sets existed until I seen somebody posting that set of a different player. So no, it's been great. And when we get onto the Mount Rushmore, or the Mount Branchmore as I was calling it to you on Instagram, one of the cards was acquired solely through Instagram. Somebody messaging me saying, "I've got this card. You're the right person to have it." So no, Instagram's been great for me. Before, when I came back into the hobby, because originally I used to go to Florida quite a lot on holiday with my family, and there was a card shop in the Old Town in Orlando. I used to go there and buy singles all the time, mainly hockey. Pavel Bure was my guy back then. I was always buying hockey cards. At the time, I was following the local ice hockey team here in Dundee. So yeah, hockey was the first thing that I bought in terms of cards. Then, as I was going back and forward to America with my family, started buying boxes from Walmart and places like that. No hobby shops, no nothing like that. But '06 Chrome and '08 Chrome, which is why I'm such a fan of Topps Chrome 2008, just because it's a bit nostalgic for me going on holiday, picking up packs. Don't get me wrong, back then I wouldn't have known the difference between a red refractor and a base card. But as I've obviously got older and a bit more knowledgeable, it's been a great experience. Yeah, so Instagram's. I don't have any local card shops. I don't have any card shows. I don't have any friends here that collect cards. Even my best friends for 30 years don't even know that I do this. So yeah, Instagram's the hub for me. Just speak people like yourself. If you have somebody on an episode, I would follow them. I'd message them saying that was great, loved seeing your collection. Then you just start chatting to people, and yeah, it's been brilliant. It's totally different experience to when I first came in after COVID.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for all the tips, sir. It's always a good topic. I feel like I don't get enough coverage on here, but I think that's a very good one for especially newer collectors or those who don't use Instagram yet. I know you mentioned '08 Chrome. I swapped the slide here now to I asked you just a general question of maybe if you had some favorite sets you'd like to share, especially again having gotten into specifically Dion Branch, but I know you collect some other Patriots here. I'd love you can maybe touch on some of these sets and obviously maybe start with '08 Chrome if you want to in the bottom left. I do see you have three great looking cards from that set. So I'd love to hear a little more about some of these.
Yeah, so like I said, I always remember opening '08 Chrome when I was on holiday. And it just so happens that I'll touch on this when we speak about '03 Finest, but in '08 Chrome, you've got Moss, Brady, Welker, Gerard Mayo, who are probably four of my favourite Patriots. So it's a no-brainer. Even if I wasn't nostalgic about that set, I think I would have definitely dived into it after doing a bit more research. The only the only downside of that set is the gold cards just aren't the same as any other gold cards. There's I'm not a number snob. Them being high in number doesn't really bother me, but there's just next to no shine on them. So that's why I've kind of gravitated towards the reds. And obviously numbered to 25, they're a little bit rarer as well.
Yeah, I found myself doing the same thing. I don't know if they just like miss the refractor layer on top of the golds or something. It's so bizarre because I'm sure you've seen basketball or other sports. It's very shiny, but
Yeah,
it leaves a little
yeah,
bit to
no,
be desired here.
yeah, definitely. Plus, with the obviously the three cards that are on the screen just now are inserts. So there's more cards to like. There's obviously three Mosses, stuff like that to go for. Obviously, you've got the base one that I've got my eye on for when that eventually gets sold. But yeah, even it's not just a case of one card per player, so that ticks a few boxes for me.
Yeah, how did it I see what we have shown here too. You have the like you just said the 2 leaders Moss cards and then different ones and then the 1 leaders Brady. Did they in this set is that how that insert set works? Is it looks like to me it's okay, Moss leads the league in receiving yards and touchdowns, so he gets a card for each of those stats. It looks like I don't know what the Brady one is in the middle. Could you tell a little bit about maybe the inserts there?
Yeah, so the Brady one's for passing yards. So I think it's receiving yards, passing yards, receiving TDs. I think there's rushing ones as well.
Mhm.
But the Pats weren't really blessed with good running backs back then, so I've not really looked into them that much.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Up next, I see some 3 different years of finest. I'd love to hear why you felt like sharing these. What do you like about these sets and that sort of thing? And I see they're all Dion Branch cards, which is really neat. So you get to see some variety of him.
Yeah, so I do have a few more branch cards from '05 finest and '06 finest, but I couldn't fit them all on the scanner, so I just picked two from each. Tried to pick an X Fractor on both years as well. Obviously, the gold's quite high up there on the list of Dion Branch cards for me, so I'm glad to get that. I don't share any cards on my Instagram that aren't graded, so I do have quite a big submission that I'm going to be putting through probably over the next week. I just My reason for loving '06 and '05 finest is there's just so much variety, but not too much variety like Prism nowadays. When there's if you try and do a Prism Rainbow now, there's 60, 70 parallels maybe. So yeah, and plus the design's just awesome. The shine, the players front and center on the card. Yeah, it's they two are my favourite sets probably. It's just the black X Fractors are kind of what I'm going for in that next, and the '06 golds, but they're just so they don't appear. Even for a player like Branch that nobody else wants to collect, they just don't appear. So yeah.
I gotta ask too. I apologize. I should have asked this earlier. Focus on this more, but can you explain the draw to Branch for you when you started collecting? Was that always just you were a huge fan of him, or you were kind of looking at like prices of what cards went for? Like what led you to Branch right away?
Um, to be honest, the first thing I done was I basically wrote a list of the 10 cards that I liked the most, and obviously I wasn't going to collect anyone other than a Patriot. And Branch, I think he was in 8 of the 10 favourite cards of mine. So that's kind of where it started. I went on Instagram because I'd made the mistake before of thinking, oh, I'm going to be a Dante Hightower collector. Then you search on Instagram, you find somebody's got all the best cards, and it's like I'm never going to be happy doing that. So I done a bit of research on Instagram on Branch. There was nobody really collecting him. So yeah, I went, why not? Went on CompC, and there was an '04 Fleer Masterpiece 1 of 1. It was sitting there for something like $40, and I bought that, graded it through them, came back a PSA 8, and I was like, well, I've got one of 1. Let's start trying to build out the collection from there. So yeah, and it's quite lucky with Branch. He had 2 stints at the Pats, so he's in 2012 Prism, and one of my favourite cards is the Crystal Atomic Refractors, and he's also in that as well. So I get the early tops cards, and I get some of the later ones as well, which is pretty sweet.
Awesome. And the last set here looks like '03 finest. What do you want to? What do you like about this set? Is what I should say here.
I just I love the design. I think the scans do not do these cards justice. The gold pops on them so much, especially on the gold refractor. I know you've got a Peyton Manning PSA 10. Just awesome cards. The only downside to that set for me is it's only really Troy Brown and Tom Brady. I think there's six Pats in the set. The other four are rookies.
Mhm.
One of them's Cliff Kingsbury, who threw for like 17 yards in the NFL. So he's not really. But there's Bethel Johnson, who the Pats drafted, who was like a kick returner in the for the first two Super Bowls. You can pick up his gold refractor for. I think there's one on eBay just now for like $12. So I probably could start building out the team set of that. I'm just not sure if I've got that much affection for the other players that are in it other than Brown and Brady. So that's one of the things I was going to bring up. Like I love that set so much, but I feel like I'm kind of what's the word? I'm kind of narrowed into only being able to collect two players, one of them being Tom Brady. So that's where I'm kind of at a bit of a crossroads in my collecting at the minute. I'm not sure whether to branch out to some other players and some other teams. There's an Anquan Bolden Gold X Factor on eBay just now, which is probably one of the most beautiful cards I've ever seen with the red background and the gold. It's a rookie card, but I'm just not sure if I love the set that much to start spending money on Arizona Cardinals and things like that. That's the crossroads that I'm at just now.
Yeah, that's the hard part I feel like too because you like I would say I've went through like eras with my collection too where I did like the player collecting then kind of more of the one of every player. Now I'm more like maybe set collecting. I feel like it's
Yeah,
so hard to decide when you want to try the next thing like to your point, right? Because if you start that and you open, you get one Anquan Bolden, then you're like where are my boundaries now? Like it's like a little you're in like a weird state. It's always hard to decide, I feel like.
yeah, because I was looking at your feed just before I came on, and I think you had the Dwight Freeney Gold X Factor. Obviously, I've got the branch there, and it was like I used to hate watching Dwight Freeney because the Colts and the Pats were such big rivals, and him and Mathis were just absolute animals. But I look at the card and I'm like, that's like it's a beautiful card. It's just trying to get over the hump of buying cards of players that used to cause me a bit of pain when I was growing up. So
You're telling me yeah, the hard part with especially this era is like for me, I'm a Packers fan, right? A lot of your best players, well, you look at the 90s, you have Barry Sanders is arguably, top 2, 3 best player that everyone wants to collect. You have the next era, you have Kelvin Johnson, Adrian Peterson, absolute menaces against us. But like
yeah,
everyone, it's like fun to collect and see them. So I totally can relate to that. It's like
yeah,
the fandom branches you out, that's for sure. I keep saying branch, you keep saying branch too. I
yeah.
think we're just
I was wary of that as well. That I kept saying it as too. So
it's funny. I'm going to jump over then, Liam, to your three honorable mentions for the Mount Rushmore. These are really awesome cards. I'm excited to talk about them. When you do it, I'll just have you step through as you see fit. But just as you obviously listen to the podcast, not everyone will have the visual. So just describe the card too instead of just saying the player, just so people know what they're looking at here.
yeah. So the first card is a Dion Branch NFL Shield 1 of 1. This is the only patch card I have in my collection. Um, I seen it on eBay and I just bought it. The thing with being a collector based in the UK, eBay is my card shop. Most of my purchases are on eBay, um, which can sometimes have a downfall. Cards are priced higher, obviously, to cover fees and things like that. But no, I just 1 of 1. I've seen people like Drake when they've been on podcasts showing their Drew Brees shields, and yeah, as soon as I didn't even know, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a casual collector, but I'm not somebody that spends hours reading into sets and things like that. So I wasn't actually even sure if Branch had any game used shield cards or anything like that. So when I seen it, I just smashed bin, as Brett would say, and that was it. Card
How
was
do you,
mine. The only down, oops, sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
The only downside with being, I know Benedict covered this quite thoroughly on your pod is ship my cards.
Hmm.
So like if I buy a card on eBay, it's got to go through the authenticity guarantee. Like if you're a US based collector, that could still sometimes probably take over a week,
Hmm.
maybe 2 weeks to get to you. So it'll take 2 weeks to get to my ship my cards account. They'll process it. Then I've got to basically wait until I've got enough cards to justify paying the shipping costs to come over here. So I don't get mail days every day. I get them probably once every 3 months. But my mail days are awesome because there's usually about 20, 30 cards in there. So yeah, I've got this one in person now and it's a beautiful card.
Awesome. Yeah, absolute beauty. I like the colors on this one too. Like I feel like well, I guess this is common sense. The NFL logo just looks really nice with the Patriots jersey because the colors are the same. Like that's just really
Yeah.
I've never thought of that, but looking at this, that really does look awesome.
Yeah. The second card, to be honest, I just wanted to throw in a couple of players here that weren't Dion Branch,
Yeah.
just to mix it up a bit. You can probably look at my page and think that I've got like a fetish for Patriots slot receivers. Um,
That's who's
Troy
well
Brown,
known.
yeah, Troy Brown, Wes Welker, Dion Branch. I've not ventured into Edelman yet. His cards are because they're more modern. I'm not as keen on them. They don't do the same thing to me as the early tops cards do. So yeah, this is a gold refractor from '08 finest, numbered out of 50. It's a pop one. I bought this raw and graded it myself, so it just holds a little bit of a higher footing for me. And it just shows you that you can still buy. Well, you'll know this yourself. I know you do a lot of buying raw and grading. You can still buy 15, 20-year-old cards and still gem them. So yeah,
I feel like
I
especially as
really
a
love this set. Yeah.
no, that makes sense. I was gonna say I feel like especially for you as a collector, it's really nice being able to find a raw copy for yeah, I'm just making this up. I don't know what it costs, like 20, 30, $40. And then you can grade
Yeah.
it and get the 10 and you're only paying like $15 more versus having to go buy one outright yourself. I'm sure you'd be paying a lot more.
Yeah, no, definitely. To be honest, most of the cards that I have in my PC just now have been graded by me. Only because I don't think many people will look at a Dion Branch card and go, I want to pay $15 to put that in a slab. So yeah, which is I'm fine doing that.
I feel like so a question for you too. I feel like I don't see a ton of Welker cards, period. I mean, a lot of these receivers, it has to be so hit or miss if they're in these sets. Is that right? I mean, like do you know how many golds does Welker really have if you had to guess? 10, 8, 10
Yeah,
between all the sets?
yeah, and to be honest, this isn't. I don't know if I'm being too narrow-minded in my collecting because a lot of Welker's Topps Chrome Gold are in the Broncos uniform.
Mm.
So like that's obviously a no-go for me. But like he's in 2012 Prism, which the for the Pats, which the gold cards on my Grail list. I don't think I've ever seen a sale of it publicly. But I don't know. I think it doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason with the amount of players from teams that get put into these sets. I was having a little look at was it '05 finest? I think there's three Patriots. No, sorry, '06 finest. You've got Brady, Branch, and Corey Dillon. That's the three Pats players, whereas the Giants, for example, have seven. So yeah, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. But Welker he was an absolute beast as a player, catching balls over the middle of the field, taking massive hits. So yeah, I just don't think he gets enough love. A lot of the Pats fans blame him for dropping a pass in the Giants Super Bowl. So I don't know if that's maybe a touchy subject, but no, I've got great memories of watching him. So that's why I collect them. So
Awesome. And mentioning 2012 Prism, it looks like we have one coming up here.
yeah, I just actually bought this card this week.
Oh, no way.
I don't have, yeah, I don't have it in hand yet. Um, I'd been watching it on eBay. It'd been up, it was up at buy it now for quite a high, well, 2012 Prism Golds. The price is the price basically. They're that there. It was up for a wee while, so I decided just to shoot an offer to the guy. Um, went to bed, woke up, had a DM on Instagram saying, "Hi, you've offered me for my Gerard Mayo on eBay. This is my Instagram account. Can we try and work out a deal?" Then, yeah, if he's saving on fees, I can get it a little bit cheaper. So, all good.
Awesome.
That
That's
was
a
another
beauty.
thing I'd never. Sorry, that was another thing I never touched on. See, with being a UK collector, these eBay auctions ending at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning is just not good for me. Obviously, if you know that there's a card ending when you're going to be sleeping, you can put in a bid beforehand. But like I've missed out on the 2012 Prism Welker Red Die Cut PSA 10. Got listed for something like $70 when I was sleeping. So yeah, there's downsides to being in a different time zone. Basically, that's what I'm
Mhm.
trying to say.
Have you tried out, oh, well, yeah, 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 I suppose, right? Because 'cause you're saying even too you'll miss the buy it nows that you'd maybe woulda caught. I was gonna say you could do one of
Yeah,
those auto bidding tools, but that doesn't help you on the buy it nows when they pop up while you're sleeping.
yeah. Like with that, the Ridley mosaic that you sent me
Mhm.
the other day, I was fast asleep. Woke up the next day, I was like, got to have this card, but I think it was maybe up for an hour or two
Yeah, I shoulda just bought
before
it
it
for
got
you.
sold.
It was only like $40. I shoulda just bought it, to be honest, but I was like, I don't know if he collects the rookies of players outside of his PC, so I didn't wanna just buy it, and I wasn't for sure, but next time I'll just pull the trigger for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so now we're going on to the actual Mount Branchmore here. These are awesome, so I'm super excited to hear about the PC you've put together here for your favorite player.
Yep. So the left to right, the first card's the 2012 Prism Gold, Dion Branch. You can see if you look at the second one on the Rushmore and the first one, slight number change.
Hmm.
So he wore 84 in his second stint with the Pats. Um, I would have took this card in any grade, let alone a PSA 10. It just popped up on eBay. I think it was on the 31st of December, so don't know if people were maybe out celebrating New Year's, but he had it up for a high price. I shot a best offer to the guy. As soon as I sent the offer, I was panicking. I was like, I've lowballed him. Somebody might just smash bin on it. But he came back with a counter offer that was more than fair. Then yeah, the card was mine. That card's a little bit strange in a sense that the Gerard Mayo, that PSA 9 that I've bought is the only one that's been graded with PSA, whereas there's been three branch 2012 golds graded and they've all got PSA 10s, which is a little bit bizarre, but I'm happy to have one of the three. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know this set has gotten so popular. I've kind of just decided I don't know if I'm going to be able to add too many more from this set right now, unless it kind of chills out a little bit. But that December time frame when you got it, that was probably a really good time to be adding these. In hindsight, I wish I had been grabbing a lot more, but I just didn't.
yeah, the thing with that set is obviously the I've got the branch in the Mayo. The Welker's a big one on my list for the PC. But you're never going to be able to complete that set because I was looking at the prices of the Brady. I think the PSA 10, the last sale for the Brady went for 252,000, which is basically how much I paid for my house.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely won't be adding that one. That's for sure.
No,
And
yeah.
I'm not sure if there's any. I wouldn't say I'm a completionist, but I think if I had a set and I had say six of the seven, that would probably annoy me.
Yeah. I can feel that. I feel like, well, I'm doing that select 2013 select set that I'm sure you obviously you know that we've talked about a little bit. But the Brady's in there too, and it's a lot. It's not that expensive, but it's still instead of a house price, it's probably a nice car price. And that for me too is I'm just gonna be. I think for me, I'm just gonna settle on the fact that it's if I have 149 out of 150 and Brady's my only one, I'll just print off a photocopy of a copy and slap it in or something for the time being. Maybe in the future, I feel like in the future you just never know, but yeah, I don't know that 250,000, man, that's a nice home like you said.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, so what's the second
The
one?
The second card is the O2 Finest X Factor PSA 10, which is, as you can see on the top left, it's his rookie card. I'm not one of the collectors that puts. I don't care if it's a rookie or not. If I like the card, I'll add it. Don't get me wrong. With some players, like I know a lot of Peyton Manning's best cards just so happen to be his rookie year and things like that. That's the same with this one. This set's brilliant. The shine on these X Fractors. This again, the scan. It's impossible to scan these cards. You have to take like a video or a photo on your phone to see the true beauty of them. But no, low number rookie card. It's in a practice uniform, which doesn't really bother me either. But yeah, similar to the Ed Reed card that sold recently, he's in his practice. I think all the rookies from that year are in their practice uniforms. But I've got the gold X Fractor in the gold in a 10, the refractor in a 10, and the base in a 10. So I'm quite content to not buy any more O2 Finest at the minute. So
Yeah, that's one nice part about that set is you only need two, basically two of the rare cards, and then you can get the other two after you're done, and then you're
yeah.
like, okay, I'm done now. We're good. Also, you mentioned this O2 rookie class. I like just recently didn't realize how actually halfway decent that set or that class is. Right? You have like you just said Ed Reed, you have Dwight Freeney, you have Julius Peppers too. So you have like three really strong defensive players, and then Branch is in it too. So there's actually it's a decent class. I can't think of any other bigger players, but those are the three I just realized were all in this set.
Yeah. Um, no, I can't really think off the top of my head. I did look at, because I was looking at Branch's draft class not that long ago, and I was surprised that there wasn't too many Hall of Famers in it. I think there was maybe only the three that you mentioned. I think maybe four.
Yeah, I was just looking if there's anyone else. The only other name that I really recognize is David Carr, but I think he was a bust if I remember right.
Yeah.
Devon Walker's on the
Excellent.
Packers, but again, I mean, good players, but I don't think any of them are like Hall of Fame. But yeah, cool. And I like you said, it's cool that the when you have that player you collect where they are a rookie in a year where that has iconic sets like this. Even you look at too,
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe you own some, but from even the Topps Chrome that year is a pretty, I would say, fairly iconic set, right? I mean, I know the Brady's really desired stuff like that, so it's kind of cool that you have all those sets with the rookie in there right away.
Yeah, and to be fair, most of the branch cards I have aren't rookies.
Hmm.
Um, that's just the way it's landed, to be honest. But like I said, I'm not one that puts a major focus on having rookies in my collection. But I just want to shout, like, I don't know if people actually know how good a player Dion Branch was. Super Bowl MVP against the Eagles. Um, I think in that game he tied Jerry Rice's
Yep.
for most catches in the Super Bowl, which I think James White, I think's got that record now in the comeback game against the Falcons. So, but people remember Branch for the Super Bowl against the Eagles where he won MVP, but in the Panthers Super Bowl, he didn't. Brady deserved to win MVP, like no doubt about it in that game, but he had 10 catches in the previous Super Bowl as well
Wow.
for more yards, 143 yards. So he turned up when it mattered, and that'll always be a plus point for me.
Yeah, just say I really value players like that, especially like being a Packers fan where you have these like I don't think we don't have a Hall of Fame receiver in the last couple eras that I've watched of these teams, but um the reason is because you have I like at least I feel like for us and probably for the Patriots, you spread the ball around so much. So but then I feel like the players that stand out, like you said, are the ones that show up in the big games, even if they're not stuffing the stat sheet the whole year, like a Randy Moss, for instance. But then in the big game, they show up. I even think back to like, I'm sure you probably watched this game last year, is the Packers Cowboys playoff game where CD Lamb just like fell off the face of
Yeah,
the earth. It's like, I don't know. It just drives me nuts because I just that clutch gene is so important. I think in a player that I just value that so greatly.
yeah, and that's like at the start of the pod when I said that Dante Hightower was my favourite ever Pats player. He made so many big plays in the Super Bowl against the Falcons and against the Seahawks that, like, I think Belichick said recently at Tom Brady's retirement, ceremony at Gillette, it was like I don't know how many Super Bowls we would have won if we didn't have Hightower in the middle. And he's coaching the linebackers this year, so hopefully we can see some sort of. The defense was good last year. It was offense that was a problem, but hopefully we can keep the same standards.
Yep, for sure. Awesome. What's the next card you have here?
Yep. So this is the '05 finest superfractor die cut. Um, Obviously, I never thought that I would ever get this card. Um, I owe you an assist on this card because I got it from C Dice Cards Chris, who I only followed because I seen him on your pod. So you've got an indirect assist on that one. Yeah. So he mess. I'll never forget it. He sent me a DM, and at this time I wasn't really speaking to many people that I followed on Instagram. I was kind of just lurking in the background, smashing like on everyone's photos and showing a bit of love. But he just messaged me going, "Nice PC." That was it. Then 2 minutes later, a photo of this card, and I was just like, "I've got to have this."
Hmm.
But he was brilliant. I basically put money aside to buy this card from him. Then basically a week before we were going to do the deal, the 2012 gold prism came up, and the funds for the superfractor went on that. But he was more than understanding. He held the card for me. I think obviously, the grade doesn't really matter on a one of one. Um, I think it's a bit harsh to be honest. I know with it being a die cut, the edges are quite hard to tell, but I've looked at. He's obviously got the Ray Lewis one of one same card, and there doesn't seem to be much difference in the edges. But no, I'm happy to have this. Happy to have it slabbed up, and needless to say, this is one that won't be going anywhere.
Yeah, and so I didn't know this at the time because that funny enough, on the flip side, that Ray Lewis that he has, I think I showed him it through ComC because it was on eBay for like $3,000 or something absurd, like very, very high.
Yeah,
Maybe that's not unreasonable now, but at the time that was very high. And then what showed, I think I showed Chris that, well, on ComC it's on like a 66% sale or something. It's just on it's got some big
yeah,
sale going on. And then he went and snagged that. And after talking to him, I didn't realize at the time, but this is the first year they ever did a superfractor. I think this is the very first superfractor that was ever made. Is that right? I don't know 100%, but I think that's
yeah,
accurate.
I don't know for sure. I'm trying to. I can't remember seeing many from, if any, from sets before that. So that's probably correct.
Yeah, because Topps Chrome, you think, okay, 2005, absolutely not. It's just got the black refractor out of 100 that I can recall. Um,
Mhm.
'04 finest, I think your most rare card is that, like, there's that refractor X fractor is how they title it, where it's
Yeah,
out of 5. I think this is the first super. I can verify and put a note in here if it's not, but we're just gonna assume it is. So, but I guess what I'm getting at is it goes to show you how much big and important of a card it is, that set specifically, even regardless of player, which is just really cool here.
yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. So it's the last card here, and I think this one is pretty recent too, if I remember seeing you post this recently.
Yeah, this is one of the. To be fair, probably even more than the 2012 Gold Prism. This is a card that I really wanted to have in a 10. I think I've bought. I'm not one for buying dupes. I think I've maybe bought about 11 or 12 versions of this card. Um, I've still got two, I think, that are sealed that look originally sealed that look quite good. But I seen this one on ComC, and they've got a great pre-grade review service that you pay $5 and they kind of tell you if it's going to gem or not. So I bought this card on there, sent it to the pre-grading, and they said it would either get a 9 or a 10. And yeah, it came back a 10, over the moon. This card is so hard to get in a 10. I was doing a bit of research on the pop report. I've got a little note in front of me here. Like the Peyton Manning version, there's only 110.
Oh, one.
Um, there's the Brady, there's only 110, which, to be fair, I'm not sure because there's a weekly wrap up one and the base one. I'm not sure what one it is, but there's very popular player collectors like there's no 10 in the Randy Moss, there's no 10 in the Ray Lewis, there's no 10 in the Marvin Harrison, there's no 10 in the Favre. So yeah, very, because if you think, obviously if you've got one of these for Brady or Manning, you're going to be sending it in to get graded. It's not low numbered, it's out of 101
Mhm.
if I remember correctly. But yeah, to get it in a 10 was, it instantly went to the top for me.
I always like the look of these '03 X Fractors from Topps Chrome. But for me, the dilemma, like you just said, I had a Peyton for a while, I think as an 8. But then when you get that situation where a card pops up and you're looking, what can I sell and maybe get back again if I wanted to? That was a card that went right away for me. However, what you just said is so accurate. If I had a 10, for instance, like you have a 10 here, that to me is what just absolutely sets a card like this apart because they're just impossible. And like you said, that with the serial numbering out of 101, you could get another one, like you said, you find 11 or 12, but you cannot get the 10, which is just, I think, what makes this card so cool that you're sharing here, which is just awesome. I'm happy for you on that grade. That's just incredible.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I've
Well, it's
got
hard.
the Troy. Oh, sorry, I've got the Troy Brown in a 9, which put them both side by side. They look pretty much identical. But I'm not complaining. I'll take a 9 and a 10 any day.
Yeah, for sure. Especially on this set, they're off center. They have print lines. The back has issues. I mean, it's just never ending on this one.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Liam, we will wrap up here with a fast five, if that works with you. 5 quick questions, hopefully fun ones too here. So, first question would be, if you're not a fan of the Patriots, what is your next favorite football team?
We probably just need to go for somebody that a player that I like watching. Um, Quarterback wise, I just love watching CJ Stroud last year.
Hmm.
Obviously, I don't have an affiliation with the Texans or anything like that, but just when you see somebody coming in right from college and lighting the league up, it's just, so I'd probably say Houston. I used to love watching back in the peak fantasy football days, Arian Foster and JJ Watt and things like that. So yeah, probably Houston. I've got a little soft spot for.
That makes sense. Awesome. What is number two? What is your best fantasy team you ever had? What's the most iconic, like memorable fantasy team? Are there any players that come to mind that was in that championship?
The one year I won the Doug Martin for the Tampa Bay Muscle Hamster, I think he got called. There was one year that he just carried me to the championship. The only the weird thing about fantasy, obviously, we're going to be in a league this year, but I've got one other friend that follows American football. So it's basically me and him, and we join a random league with another 8 or 10 Americans, and there's no banter. You don't know who you're playing or anything like that. But no, probably Doug Martin's one that I'll always remember being a fantasy beast for me.
That's hilarious you said that because my first or second year playing, I was in my dad's work league. Like I would manage his team for him because he doesn't know what he's doing, and I knew a lot more. And I read about how that Doug Martin, I think he was the coach of the Buccaneers at the time, right? Whoever the coach was, he was like something affiliated with him in college, and I drafted him too. And I won a championship as well. But I remember that I think it was the last game or championship game. He had like 40 points or 30 something. I mean, it's just nuts. That's funny you said
Yeah,
that.
crazy.
Yeah, I was at a Packers game, and then we got in the car and I checked the score because there's no reception in the stadium, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, we won!" And it was like the first year I'd ever done it. So it's yeah, I love fantasy. Kind of really links you with these players that you'd otherwise normally not watch, of course. So
Yeah, I think that's the only route I've got. If I'm going to start collecting players from other teams, it'll probably be players that I had on fantasy teams because that's kind of the only connection I'll have with them. But
makes sense. Awesome. So then third one here, I always like touch on food a little bit. I'm curious what your favorite like home cooked meal is, whether that's growing up or something that you like to cook now.
this will probably I don't this will be a Scottish cuisine, but mince and tatties, so just mince and potatoes is quite a common Scottish delicacy. So I would have to say mince and tatties, as we would call it here.
Awesome. You'll make it for me when I visit, hopefully.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Or
Okay.
maybe
Sounds
my partner will. I'm not a very good cook. But
Yeah, this sounds good. So fourth question here. Do you think you see yourself attending a national maybe in the next 3, 4 years? Is that something you'd like to do and hopefully be able to pull off?
Yeah, I have thought about it before. Obviously, I've been branching off a little bit. My
Branch.
basketball team's the New York Knicks. Like I've flew to MSG a couple of times to see them. I flew to Boston to see the Pats. So I don't see why in the future I can't do that. It's just whether after I've paid for the flights, the hotel, that I'll actually have any money left to buy any cards. But I'm sure I could figure something out. But yeah, definitely on the to go to a card shows quite high up on the list.
Oh yeah, awesome. Because you haven't, I'm sure, been to one prior, right? You never,
No,
nothing in
they
Scotland.
recently done like a Scotland card show in Glasgow, but over here it's Pokemon, soccer, nothing that I would really be interested in. So it's not really worth the drive through to go and see it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, fifth and final question. What is the number one card you're looking for that if somebody has, they should be messaging you to sell to you?
2012 Wes Welker Gold Prism, without a shadow of a doubt, that's the number one on my hit list. Probably followed by the is Red Refractor in Chrome 2008.
Awesome.
That's the I kind of put myself through a bit of pain searching for that on Card Ladder, just the previous sales and seeing like the Branch Superfractor. There was a sale of that in 2013, $16.
Yuck.
So yeah, don't look at old comps, that's for sure.
No, awesome. Well, Liam, thanks so much for hopping on. Anyone who's listening, obviously follow Liam on Instagram. He goes by at Dundee Cards One. Great, great guy. Tell him what you liked about the episode, and don't forget to show him some love as well. So yeah, Liam, just again, thanks for hopping on. I really appreciate it. I hope you had a good
Yeah,
time as
no,
well.
yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.